Hey, Becky, welcome to the Feminine Frequency Podcast. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you for having me, Amy. I am really excited to chat with you today.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite topics. I love talking about business, and I'm really excited to have you share some new perspectives and some of your own unique ways that you support women in their businesses, and to really dive in and learn more about your story as well.
Yeah.
I'd love to start there and hear what got you into being a business coach and where that passion comes from for you.
Yeah. It's funny because every time that I share this story, it's different. And I was actually I love to do research on coaches before I hire them. So I was listening to a bunch of podcast episodes of my now current coach, and she is amazing she tells the same story every time. It's so she has that story that she tells. And I'm like, wow, my story is different every time I share it. I feel like the points are there, but it's always a little different. But basically, I started my business in September of 2018. I was at a point where um, I had worked for a couple of months at a bourbon distillery doing doing their social media after college. And I loved it, but I didn't love the commute. I didn't love dropping my dog off at daycare every day. I didn't love being in a rhythm that was the same day in and day out and living for the weekend. It wasn't what I ever wanted for myself. So I ended up leaving and getting this remote position, which was really cool. I was doing content strategy, but it was contract work. And when it ended, I was like, I don't want to go back to an office. And in my mind, it was easier to start a business than to apply for remote positions. So I started a business doing what I knew at the time, which was social media management. And I realized quickly that I did not enjoy doing social media for businesses, people, unless I was in it. When I was at the distillery, I loved it, but I was in it. I was in the business every day. When I was doing it as my own business, I just didn't love it. But I had already discovered the coaching world, and I was like, this is the direction I want to take. So I started as an Instagram marketing coach. And then by April of 2019, I had shifted into business coaching. And I remember probably December of 2018, I remember I would sleep in every single day, really sleep in. And I've always wanted to be that person that could wake up at 6 a.m. and start their day and do all these things. And I just could never get myself to do it. And reason being that I have some intense anxiety, which leads to depression, which leads to exhaustion. Because I have I had found out at the time, or maybe a couple months later, I'm very bad at timelines, that I had really bad adrenal fatigue. And a lot of that, I mean, health issues, but a lot of it came from my anxiety. So I would always joke and I'd be like, it's such a good thing I started my own business because there's no way I'd be able to be waking up and going to work and working for the whole day. And even looking back, I remember unless I drank my coffee, for back in college when I was interning, I would literally doze off at my desk. I would start eyes rolling to the back of my head, falling asleep. So anyway, I was really grateful for that. And that was something that I recognized and I would speak on a lot, but I wouldn't necessarily speak on what it was. I would just be on my Instagram stories, so grateful for having my own business so I could sleep in or something like that. And then 2019, which was my first full year in business, was an amazing year. And it was one of the craziest years of my life. I know, shocker, not 2020, but 2019. I, at the time, was convinced that I was super depressed. And my psychiatrist decided that my depression was worse than my anxiety at that point. So he switched me from anxiety meds to depression meds. And for the next probably 6 months of my life, while building a business, it was the craziest roller coaster, maybe even longer, because my mom noticed it early on. She was like, I think that your meds are not working for you. But I was like, no, 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 you're crazy. Stop telling me that. I feel better than ever, because anxiety meds, right? They curb your emotions. And then you get on a depression medication where I'm feeling everything that I hadn't felt in years. But it's I understand anxiety meds a lot more than depression meds. But anyway, so I'm feeling all these feelings. I'm like, no, I'm fine. I'm fine. But I wasn't. And what ended up happening was, even though the depression meds were fixing the depression, nothing was handling my anxiety. So my anxiety got so bad that I was more depressed. So I was taking these meds, but everything was just getting worse and worse. So I would spend the reason I'm sharing this is that I would spend so many days not working and feeling guilty about not working. And then at the end of 2019, I looked back and I was just like, I can't believe that I didn't get to where I was. I was like so hard on myself, right? Even though that summer of 2019, I had hit my first 5-figure month and, or I'm sorry, my first 5-figure launch. And ever since then, every single launch that I do for a program is at least 5 figures. And I've scaled this year to consistent 5-figure months. And even with that success, I'm so hard on myself that I would look back and say, well, it could have been more. It could have been more, but I was stuck and I literally could not physically get myself to work. And I would spend all day watching Netflix and then feel guilty about it. But in reality, it's like, at least I got out of bed. At least I got in the shower before I watched TV. But I didn't realize that at the time. And I would have like there were a couple of times where a couple of instances where it was really, really bad. And my mom was like seconds from buying a plane ticket and getting on a plane to me because of everything that was going on. And the lesson that I learned at the end of the day was, first of all, listen to your mom. She probably knows what's going on with you. Because many months later, I finally looked at my mom actually called my therapist. I was like, I was 24 years old. I was like, I don't want to give you my therapist information, but she called and, they finally, my therapist listened, or not therapist, psychiatrist, sorry. And like, we switched my meds back. Anyway, I'm talking a lot, but basically, we figured it out and things got better. But ultimately, the lesson there for me was, things can be hard, but like, what a gift that I did have my business. And that didn't happen at like a corporate job. And I wasn't like losing my mind at a corporate job or like couldn't go to work. What a gift that I was able to stay at home. And when I had the energy, even if it was for 30 minutes, I could show up and then I can just like go along with my day as best as I could. And honestly, just like really grateful that I was able to do that. And we can look at it in two ways. We can look at it in the way I used to of, oh my gosh, I could have made so much more money. I could have impacted so many more people. I could have done this. I could have done that. But the better way to look at it is, what a gift that I was able to spend all those days when I couldn't do anything else, sitting on my couch instead of having to force myself to go to work or getting fired and losing my job. So that's kind of that part of it. And so fast forwarding, now I'm much better. I'm doing great. Luckily, there's, everybody has their instances, and anxiety is never ending, I feel like, but there's always things that you can work on. And um, it's always going to be a part of you in some capacity, but it's so possible to be so successful even with all of that. So, yeah.
Mm. Thank you for sharing the realness of your story. And I really believe that as coaches, as leaders, as guides, we have these experiences, even though they might not be pleasant at the time. And they allow us to have true empathy and true understanding and compassion for what our clients are going through. So I imagine that you will definitely and have attracted, you know, women who have either anxiety or depression or who are really hard on themselves. And since you've lived that experience, you can teach from an embodied place, which is something that I've been thinking about so much lately. Is not just this teaching because you learned it from someone else or you tried it one time or because you read it in a book or something, like listened to it on a podcast, but really the embodied understanding of, oh, I know what that's like. And
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm here to hold space for you to get to the other side of that because I know that you will, because I did. And I really appreciated how you shared about what was that internal dialogue for yourself of being hard on yourself. Like, I should have done more. I should have been further along, because regardless of whether it's anxiety or depression or someone gets sick or someone has adrenal fatigue, which I'm so familiar with myself, like, life is life. Life is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Things happen in family. And for us to expect that we're always supposed to be doing this linear up level and linear, like, continuing to grow all the time, and it's always supposed to be growing, and I'm never supposed to have times where I'm tired or not feeling well, right? Like, we are cyclical beings, we are emotional beings, we are living beings, we are not robots, and we are not, luckily, corporate is very much like that. It's the ladder, it's go, 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 like, always have to be on. Whereas in our businesses, I think that there is a way to really honor ourselves and to really honor our cycles and rhythms, and also do what's necessary to take care of those things. So whether for, some people it is working with a doctor for medication, whether it's nourishing our bodies, working on alignment, which is what I work on with my clients. There's just ways where we can really, as we improve our mental and physical health, it actually can start to show up in our business too, which is really cool. And it sounds like you've kind of like turned that corner and been able to navigate that really beautifully.
Yeah, it's really cool. And I think that the coolest thing is when you realize that you're doing well. And I had some of my best months, like personally, emotionally, in my business, a couple months ago, like probably summertime. And in that time, every single one of my clients was succeeding more than I've ever seen before. And it just goes to show that, like, if you're having a hard time, don't push yourself. Like, do what you have to do to take care of yourself. Your business isn't going to go anywhere. Might it feel a little hard when you get back for a little bit? Sure. But like, that's part of business. But if you push yourself, it's not going to benefit you. It's not going to benefit your clients. It's not going to be good for anyone. And I think that seeing that parallel of like when I was doing so well, or whenever I am doing so well, I'm not saying I'm not now, but like whenever I'm doing so well, um, my clients are doing so well as well. And it's just a really cool parallel to see.
Hmm. Yeah, I think this really speaks to like both like the masculine and feminine energies that I really, believe in and really work with in my business. Of like, if we're just like forcing and pushing and trying super hard and we're meeting so much resistance, even to write a freaking post is going to take like 10 times as long, and be like the energy behind it is not going to be as potent, and it's going to like feel really inauthentic, or just not it's not going to be infused with the energy of inspiration and flow and truth. And so like, if you're in that place, for me it's like, okay, pause, go outside, get out in nature, take a break, take a nap, do what you need to do. And when we can really surrender to that and stop making ourselves wrong for taking that time to nourish ourselves and to really support whatever we need in that moment, we get back so much faster to what we actually want to be doing. But when we resist the resistance and we keep forcing the resistance, we stay stuck for a lot longer. And I know that piece of surrender and letting go is really challenging for a lot of people, because that negative voice comes in like, I'm going to fail. What if I like never get back to where I was? Like, I'm just being lazy. Whatever your story is, I think there's enough stories that each of us have, and I think that trust and surrender that you're talking about, of, okay, I can trust that I get to take care of myself right now. And when I do that, I can come back and like my business gets really great results when I'm actually
Mhm.
in alignment and I'm feeling good and I can show up. So thank you for
Exactly.
sharing and bringing this conversation of mental health into the space of entrepreneurship. I think it's really powerful and really important, because a lot of people don't talk about that.
It is. And and
And
and
it's
sorry, I'm totally cutting you off because I just think it's so
That's okay.
interesting, because so many people actually, when you really get to know them, you find out that like they started their business because they have anxiety or depression or something like that. And either what they do like allows them to help others like that, or they're like, I just couldn't do the 9 to 5. Like I couldn't do the 9 to 5 one. If I need a day off, I do this or that. And I mean, first of all, I think that there's a lot more people with mental illness in this world than we really realize, but it's definitely a lot of people, they come to entrepreneurship for that, and yet it really is rarely discussed unless the coach, the entrepreneur who's talking about it, that's what they do. That's who they work with, and that's what they do. So it definitely is an important topic, and it amazes me how unsafe a lot of people feel to discuss it. It's sad.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. And I appreciate conversations like this one where we actually give permission and speak to the truth of what's going
Yeah.
on, instead of trying to hide behind the perfection of, I'm a business owner and I run my own business and everything's great. And like, that's not true. Like, the thing that I love about working with female business owners is that it's a huge spiritual and personal development journey. Like, you can't not look at your stuff when you're running your own
Hmm.
business, and whether that's mental health, whether that's self doubt, limiting beliefs, just how you're taking care of yourself or not taking care of yourself, like it's going to show up as a reflection, and it can be a really, deep personal development journey if we allow it to. So that's why
Yes.
I'm passionate about supporting female business owners. So
Yes.
I'd love to dive into a little bit around like business strategy and really supporting women and understanding how to feel confident about their services, and like even talking about launching, because I know that's like a term, but some people have no idea what that even means. So I think, a lot of the people who follow me and who want to work with me are women who actually are coaches or healers or have a service-based business. So I think that's what we'll talk about today. And so, I think there's a lot of pieces to learn here. So let's talk about confidence and the mindset around selling out your services, because everyone wants to have a wait list. Everyone wants to be sold out. We want full programs. So let's talk about what that takes to get there.
Yeah. So here's the funny thing is that when it comes to all those things that we want, what we don't realize is a lot of coaches that are like super, super successful don't even have those things. So we're so hard on ourselves to be all these things and have so many different like pieces of our business, but it's not always necessary. And I think that that's so important to point out. But when it comes to confidence, something that I think is so cool that I never realized, and I feel like I say this all the time now because I just think it's so cool. Confidence is not a feeling. Confidence is a muscle. You literally have a muscle inside of you that leads you to, I guess you can say, feel confident, but it's because you built that muscle up to be that way. So the good news is that if you are somebody that walks around and says, I'm just not confident, I just don't believe in myself, all these negative things, it doesn't have to stay like that. You weren't born that way. Things can change. We can build that up. So honestly, the very first step in business is building up your confidence. And I think that that's something that gets missed a lot. But the clients that I have in my academy for my beginners, the clients that get stuck are the ones that don't believe in themselves and the ones that don't feel that they're worthy and that kind of stuff. And that all comes back to confidence. So really what you have to do is you want to learn techniques, learn tactics to build up your confidence so that you can show up and say, I got this, I can do this. So the best way to do it, and there's so many different techniques. I'm actually creating a confidence course next year specifically for entrepreneurs to make it like that first step. And it's literally been in my head for like 8 months, and my coach is finally holding me to it, and I'm doing it because it has to be done. But because it's just so important. So um, basically the simplest way to explain it, and not throwing 1,000 techniques at you on this episode, is to build up your confidence. You need to do little things at a time. So let's say you feel that in your business, the thing that's going to take you to the next level is doing daily Instagram lives, but you don't actually think that you are capable of doing an Instagram live. Now, old me would have said, just write a post-it, write some notes and go for it. But that doesn't work. If you don't think you can do it, you can't just write some notes on a post-it and go for it. I mean, I guess some people can, but most people just don't feel like they can do it. So what you can do is you take little steps one day at a time. So maybe let's say you have no problem just like recording videos for your stories, but when it comes to live, you cannot do live video. So you start with a 1-minute live video. Like literally that's all you hold yourself accountable to. I am going to go live for 1 minute and share one little point of wisdom. And you do that. And you do that for that first day, and you decide like, okay, I did that. And then maybe it feels easy for you after that. You can do a little bit more the next day, or maybe that still felt hard. So you have to push yourself one more time to do that 1 minute little like spurt of wisdom. But you basically make these checkpoints for yourself, and you're going to say like, today I'm going to do 1 minute, tomorrow I'm going to do 3, then I'm going to do 5. And then, however long until you hit your goal of the length of time that you want to be doing a live for. Because basically what you're doing is that you're utilizing the momentum of the day before to prove to your brain that you can do it, to keep going further and further and further. So you want to take that to any goal that you have, and just say, okay, tomorrow I'm going to do this, tomorrow I'm going to do that. And then so that's one, like, I almost like strategic way to go about it, right? Where you say, okay, I know that if I keep doing this, it's going to make things feel easier and easier for me. One step after another, check it off the list. I can do this. So another thing that you can do is a little bit this is for the go-getter that's like, I just want to feel this way already. Like, I don't want to spend a month doing this to get there. So this is going to push you out of your comfort zone a little bit. But this was a realization I had on a training I did for a friend's program. And it was actually really cool when I like processed this. So my brand is totally just like, I'm always in comfy clothes. I'm in sweats, I'm in pajamas. I rarely have a bra on, to be honest. Like, I just want to be comfortable while I'm working. And so I used to live across the street from a grocery store. But when I say across the street, I don't mean a busy street. I literally mean a dead end. Like, it was actually the funniest thing ever, because it was in this amazingly beautiful part of Lexington, Kentucky. And then there was my like crummy looking apartment complex. Like, it just looked just so like, I think it was in the 60s. It was just very ugly. And then there was this like rundown shopping center next door. And then we're surrounded by like multi-million-dollar homes. And so I thought that was so funny. But anyway, so I would literally walk across the street in my, not even my Uggs, in my Crocs with, and if it was wintertime, socks and Crocs, no bra, sweatpants, a baggy sweatshirt. And if it was cold, I would put on a jacket. So I was like, nobody can tell I don't have a bra on. It's fine. You could totally tell, by the way, like 100%.
Mhm.
And not that that should matter, but for me, that's always been something that I've been self-conscious about. So anyway, we all have those things. So I would literally go across the street dressed like this, but I was embarrassed. So instead of just going across the street dressed like this, I would actually come onto my Instagram stories to make fun of how I was walking to the grocery store. I'd be like, look how ridiculous I look. And I'm about to go into this grocery. And I did this almost every day, because my thing was, I would not keep, like, let's say sweets or things I like to snack on in my house, because I was like, if I really want it, I could walk across the street and get it. So I was literally always going to the grocery store, and I would just film myself looking ridiculous, and I would like laugh about myself, and my audience loved it, and they thought it was so funny. And they would message me things like, if I had an ounce of your confidence. And to me, I'm like, I'm not confident. I think I look ridiculous. I just don't care. And I actually do care a little bit, which is why I'm making fun of myself on my stories. And so I kept doing that. And over time, people started to like think of me as the coach that just kind of like hung, like, could build a successful business in her pajamas. And one of my clients, even, she was like, she said to me, it was so on brand to me that I agreed to pay you $4,000 for one-on-one coaching while you sold me on a sales call in a sweatshirt. She was like, that is the greatest thing. That is what I want to be able to do. I like, and not just like a cute sweatshirt. It was like my friend from college's sweatshirt that I stole from his drawer when I was cold one day and never gave it back. And that's what I got into the sales call wearing. And so my point being that I just said, this is how I want to dress. This is how I want to feel. And I want to feel comfortable doing this. I am not comfortable in dressy clothes. Like, it just, like, I don't know, the real bra, and I just can't do it. I want to be cozy. And so I would poke fun at myself. And that ultimately, because I was pushing myself out of my comfort zone by doing that, so that when I would go into the grocery store, people wouldn't look at me and like, well, they might look at me and judge me, but I was like, I'm judging myself too. So let's let's judge me together. I don't care. So because of that, what ended up happening was I was building up my confidence without even fully realizing it. And now I don't even notice if somebody's looking at me when I'm outside dressed like that, because I just do not care. So, and I live in like a super nice area now. And I'm just like, it's fine. You guys are all fancy walking to Orange Theory and I'm in my sweats, no biggie. So basically what you can take from that story is, if you just want to go for it and push yourself right through, if that's more your speed, then just look at something in your day-to-day that makes you really uncomfortable, that you want to feel confident in, and just do it. Like, I know it's so simple, but really you just have to push yourself through it. And a really good way to do it and bring your audience along with you is to talk about it on your stories. So like, almost like poking fun of yourself, because people will then get to know you on like a deeper level. And on top of that, you're just kind of helping yourself. It's almost like a personal diary that the whole world can see, but it's really actually going to help. And that truly did make such a difference for me. And without that silly little thing that I would do to make myself feel better, I honestly don't think that I would realize how important confidence is in your business. So those are
Yeah,
the
I'm
two.
hearing two really important things from that story and why that works. One is vulnerability. So it's like hey guys, this is me. I feel really uncomfortable right now, and like I'm just gonna be who I am, and this is uncomfortable, but I'm still doing it. Right.
Mhm.
And then the other piece that I hear is authenticity. Like you're not the type of business owner who does her hair every day and does her makeup every day. And like that doesn't feel good for you. So you don't need to do that. And there's another business coach that I know, a couple who are very much known for like sweats and pajamas and like being in their robe when they're coaching, and like that's just their thing. It's really funny and strange that you said wearing no bra, because I'm smiling over here because I usually do wear a bra and today I'm not. So I guess I was intuitively tuning into this conversation. It's so funny. But yeah, it's fun because you can make it your own. And, for me, there are days where it actually feels really good for me to do my hair and do my makeup, and like just it makes me feel good, and that's my authentic truth. And
Yeah.
for you it might be different, and your people are going to gravitate towards you because if they're wanting to feel comfortable at home and they like want to just be themselves, and like that's who they authentically are, then like that's their style and they get to be that instead of trying to be like all other coaches and things like that. For me, like I love doing photo shoots. I never used to. And a big piece of why I like doing that is because I used to struggle with body confidence. And I never used to like looking at photos of me. I didn't feel comfortable in my body. I didn't feel fashionable. Like a big part of my confidence journey has been to feel embodied and to learn to love my body and to like see that I actually am fashionable and like I can be, have fun in front of the camera. And so for me, like on my Instagram, a lot of my photos are from photo shoots, and I have so much fun doing those shoots. Whereas before, that used to be something that like just was so not for me because of my insecurities. And so it really, for me, when I look at those photos, it's a really great opportunity to be like, wow, look how far I've come. Not like, oh, I'm a model, right? And that's not the energy that comes through. It really is the confidence that comes through. So I love how we can use our businesses to express ourselves in the ways that we want to and to be authentic. And really we do draw the people who to us who are going to be magnetized to exactly that. And so I really appreciate you sharing those stories and those confidence strategies, and your experience with that. I think that's really great. And I do want to just share about what you said first about the confidence happens through action. And when I did the Confident Woman series earlier this year, I did a speaker series, 28 women, coaches, healers, speakers. And one of the biggest themes that we saw in that was that confidence is this like deep inner trust that gets built over time from doing the thing that makes you scared, from doing it and maybe like it being uncomfortable. And for me, my first Facebook Live, I literally remember exactly where I was sitting. I remember what I was wearing. I was sweating. My heart was beating. I was like, I don't even know what I'm saying. People are going to think that I'm crazy. Like I'm all over the place. Like it was so in my head, but I still did it. And then afterwards, I was like, oh, I kind of want to delete that. And I was like, nope, I'm not deleting it. Like that gets to stay. And I get to look back at that and be like, wow, look how far I've come. And so I think this is such a good example, especially for women who are beginning their businesses. You might look at someone like myself or like Becky, who might, seem very articulate and confident on their stories or in this podcast. And like that has been built over time. That is not just I came out of my mom's womb and like started my business and I have this beautiful articulation, right? It's
Mhm.
something that's been cultivated. I've done over 200 interviews at this point, like
Yeah.
this is something that I've built. So just really wanting to speak into that of being careful of the comparison and of the, oh, well, that person's just really good at it because they started somewhere, right?
Yeah. And that's another thing as well. Like, if you're just starting or in like your first year, don't look at somebody that's in year 2, 3, 4, 5 and say, I have to be them right now. Because that's not a fair comparison. That's not fair to put yourself up to that because there does take time. It does take time. I used to be in complete sweats, shaking, trying to figure out how to avoid sales calls. Like I would actually, when I first started my business, I would literally cancel sales calls and I wouldn't reschedule. Like, do you know how many clients I could have had if I didn't do that? But I would get so scared and I would cancel them. And it's like you never know the entire story. So don't hold yourself to the expectations of somebody that's ahead of you, because that's an unfair comparison for yourself. And honestly, like, comparison will always hold us back. So just staying in your lane and focusing on what's best for you and what's going to work for you, because every business is different. Every single business. If they were all the same, we wouldn't have like 100 different banks in America alone. Like, we have so
Mm,
many different banks, like grocery stores, fast food places, like so many. And then on top of that, we have all the local places. You see local coffee shops still surviving, even with Starbucks and Dunkin' Donuts. Like, there is space for you when you have time. So don't
mm,
rush your success, because it will come. And that was something that took me a long time to accept. I wanted to be that person that had 6 figures in 6 months. But what I learned along the way was a lot of the people that had 6 figures in 6 months either made an insane investment that I would never have done at the beginning of my business, or they actually had this whole other platform that you didn't know about before they started their business, and they had people to sell to immediately. And that doesn't lessen their success, but I'm just saying, you never know what it took for somebody to get to 6 figures in 6 months. So it's like, don't compare yourself to that if you can't
mm.
get there, because that doesn't make your success any less special and important.
Mm, yes, amen. Mic drop right there. When I started my nutrition business, I would compare myself. I knew this one nutritionist who I loved her work. She was doing amazing work. She also was eight to 10 years in business and had a team and like is where I am now. And if I was comparing myself back then to where I am now, I would be like, oh shit, like that's just not fair. Like there's been so much experience and learning and growing and like investing time and energy in myself and my business that like for someone who's just starting, like to compare themselves to me is not fair. And for me to compare myself to someone else, like it actually just holds us back and slows down the progress versus moving you forward. So just be aware of that. And I really appreciate this conversation because I think it happens. And especially with social media, like it's going to happen. So just being aware of that.
Mhm.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about launching because it's a big topic. And I'd love for you to share about what that means to authentically launch. So if someone's doing a
Ooh.
group program or one-on-one, like let's do just like the background of what does that look like to do it in a way that's authentic to you.
Yeah. So first, before I even say that, let's say, what is a launch? Because a lot of people don't realize that. I know that even when I started my business, I thought a launch was when I opened my cart. I launched my business, or I launched my offer, but see, launched like past tense, because it's a process. When someone says that they're launching a new business, that's not their opening day, because then it wouldn't be called opening day. It would be called launch. You know what I mean? So launching is a process. It's a 3-step process. And some people do it, it's a 3-week process. Some people do it where they suggest it's extended. With my clients, it depends on what they're launching and that kind of a thing. But at the end of the day, it's a 3-step process. And the third step is you opening your cart. That's the very last step, is opening your cart. So that's important to know. It's a whole process. And something I heard recently that made my brain want to explode was, somebody said that they don't believe in launching as a strategy for business. But the problem is, launching isn't a strategy for business. Launching is part of business, because when you actually see what the real definition of a launch is, it's just a prolonged period of promotion of one specific offer. So you can either
Mhm.
launch authentically and strategically, or you can launch without a plan. Like, but either way, technically you are launching. So launching is just part of business. So with that being said, how do you launch authentically? So I think that the most important part is asking yourself what feels good for you. I have a friend that her launch process is like 2+ months long, and she warms up her audience and gives so much free value for months on end before she actually goes through the second, like, part of the launch, and then the open cart piece, because she wants to make sure that her audience is insanely warmed up. There are other people that literally take 1 month to do the entire process, and then the next month they're on to the next thing. So you need to ask yourself what feels aligned for you, because there's not a right or wrong way to do it. But it needs to feel in alignment with you, because otherwise you're going to start rushing yourself. And that comes back to putting expectations on ourselves to hit certain goals. And I even caught myself getting anxious this week because I found myself pushing back some deadlines, which means that I have to like quote unquote restructure all my plans for next year. But that's the point of having a business, so we could do these things. So anyway, getting really connected with what feels best for you. And then I think that the biggest thing with authentic launching is making sure that the marketing techniques you choose to use for your launch feels good. So I personally am a coach that I don't necessarily think that there's anything wrong with old school marketing, but it doesn't work for everyone, meaning it doesn't feel good for everyone. Because in reality, old school marketing was even, I should know this because I literally took marketing in college, but I don't. But old school marketing was most likely created in a room by a bunch of men, right? And that doesn't necessarily connect with women. And a lot of things in life, like, women are not considered when things get created. It's all it's all about men. So some marketing techniques that were created a long time ago, they still work, but it doesn't feel aligned for some people. So it's asking yourself what feels aligned for you. For example, some people like using strictly pain point marketing, where they're only talking about how horrible your life is right now. And then they'll say, well, I can help you make it better. But they're basically saying the only way your life is going to be better is if you work with me. I think that a post like that every once in a while within a launch, for me, feels okay as long as it's not like extremely aggressive. But some people don't want to make posts like that at all. And you should have the right as a business owner to make that decision. And you shouldn't ever feel like your coach is telling you have to write content like that. So basically, with authentic launching, you need to ask yourself what kind of marketing content feels most aligned for you. What feels like the best way for you to get your message across, because there's different ways to do it. You can strictly focus on how good it's going to feel when they work with you, and your marketing content could be around that. You can give them a scenario and have them imagine, this is where you're at right now, but imagine what it could be like. And there's so many different ways to do it that you don't only have to focus on the negatives. But I think it is necessary to say that like that kind of marketing does work. It's just not right for everybody to utilize. So picking what feels best for you. And then I think that the biggest part of authentically launching is when it comes to the actual sales piece of it and what feels aligned for you when it comes to sales. Um, are you cool with pushing people to buy from you when they might not financially be able to handle that? Are you cool with having a conversation in the DMs, finding out that they have another, let's say they want, like, you're trying to get them to hire you as a mindset coach and you find out they have another mindset coach. Does it feel aligned for you to continue to explain why they should have you too? And there's not really a yes or no answer here. It's what feels good for you. I have my beliefs, but you have your beliefs too. And that's like a whole nother story, but that's where ethics comes in. But you just have to ask yourself essentially, like, there's not a right or wrong way to do business. Everybody's business works differently. So it's simply looking at what works for you and what's aligned for you. And if you want to work with a business coach to help you, make sure that they're going to help you build out your business plan, build out your strategy, not their strategy that worked for them to build their business to what it is, because it's not about them. It is about you. So that's the biggest thing. Don't go looking for that blueprint, because blueprint stuff just doesn't really work. So just make sure that you're doing things that feel good for you.
Another mic drop. So good. Yes, I really love the authentic strategy, and in my business, I really got to learn like what feels good for me. And even in marketing in general, like I love generosity based business. Like that's what feels good for me, is providing a ton of value through my podcast, providing a ton of value through free challenges, free workshops, and like people being able to get that value. And then for those who want to go deeper with me, they then know there's an opportunity and an invitation to go deeper. And it's very clear that they've already gotten value through the work, that they can go deeper. And that's something that has felt really good for me. And I like to get on a sales call with people and like really get to know them and see if they're a good fit, especially for my high ticket programs. Versus I know some other people who really like to do like a bomb sales page and like do lower ticket, and like that feels really good for them. So I love that there's so many different ways that we can do business, and really figuring out what feels good for you, and what your values are and what feels in alignment, because it will only work if it is authentic. It will work, but it will work better if it's authentic for you, and it will be sustainable. Like you can do a
Mm-hmm.
blueprint, strategy, but you might be tired and it might not feel good and it might be energy draining, meaning like you don't want to keep doing it. So there's so many different components to business. And I know that there's going to be women who want to keep learning from you. So if you have anything that you want to share, where they can find you, and how they can get to learn more from you, I'd love for you to share that.
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram. My handle is just Becky Feigin. And honestly, guys, look at the show notes, because if you're somewhere where you cannot look at the show notes to see how to spell my last name, just wait instead of me like spelling it out for you. It's just easier. And then you can also find me at my podcast, which is the If She Did It podcast, which when I am doing guest recordings again, Amy will be on in the new year at some point,
Mm.
which I'm excited about. And then I'm going to be giving Amy a link to share with you all for my high ticket hacker freebie, which is essentially a 6-step ebook. There's 6 steps in there that kind of walk you through how can you be bringing in clients, no matter your audience size. And it goes through things like your branding and it gives you a personal Instagram bio audit. I'm like stumbling over my words right now. And it's a really fun filled packed ebook with some prompts for you as well. So that will be in there for you. And then, like any freebie, you'll be on my list. So you'll find out all the magic that is in store for 2021 from there.
Amazing, Becky. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so grateful to have you here and excited to share you with my community. And everyone, make sure to head on over to the show notes to find out more, where you can get her free gift, and look forward to being on your show and to bringing you into my groups as a guest teacher. So thank you. And thanks everyone for listening.
Thank you.